Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break, I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. Back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break, I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
Welcome, everybody, to the FPV News. It is good to be here with you to go over all the developments this week in the world of FPV. And it's good to be here with you, Blunty.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Back.
Yeah, back from fighting with no video card.
Oh,
And-
back from the...
Yeah, I have 3 monitors now. I can see you on the right where you belong, and I have the chat over here where it should be, and I have the whole screen to look at the stories, and it's so nice. Yeah.
Yeah, you only had one monitor before?
I had one monitor. I was running on one monitor with my integrated graphics.
I can't remember the last time I had one monitor. So...
Me either.
Sorry, all you people out there with one monitor. I guess, I shouldn't act like there's something wrong with that. Yeah, it must have been really disappointing not to be able to play all. I know you like to game, and
Yes.
guessing you couldn't really game.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, Hogwarts Legacy was waiting for me. I came back and played that.
Oh,
yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, and now you've got a really high-end graphics card, so hopefully, you will be able to ride that out, for a few years. Good.
Yeah, 2 to 4 years hopefully.
And not like that box of rocks that someone sent you or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's actually, you got an actual graphics card this time?
I got an actual, I went ahead, I had to go get it, but yes. Also ridiculously large. I don't know if anybody has seen the new graphics cards, but they are ungodly large. It is way more than it needs to be. It runs at 65 degrees Celsius. It's it's got 3 fans. It's ridiculous. It's huge.
That gets you more frames though, right? Running at a lower. Nobody ever said, we're
past the level of usefulness, I think, on cooling, and we're now to we had extra giant radiators around, and these cards are cooler than we thought they were going to be.
I think you're the first person I've seen to complain that their graphics card ran too cool.
It's huge. It's just so big. It barely fit in the case. It was really close.
I mean, that I could see that being an issue, not fitting in. That's why I didn't buy. I mean, that and the money. When I bought into the 3000 generation, and I didn't buy the biggest one. And one of the reasons was the power supply, the case, and the price. But,
it's almost 3 slots. It's almost 3 slots, and it's long. It's like a half again longer than my 2080 Ti was. Like, it's crazy.
My main screen is only 2.4, whatever, 2.7K. So they don't really see a point in these. I just wanted the graphics card for rendering video, which is how I justified the purchase to myself.
Yes. But, these 40s I think have the AV1 now. I think if that's right.
Oh, that built-in
AV1. Yeah.
I changed my mind. I do need a 40. All right. But we're not here to talk about graphics cards. We're here to talk about the world of FPV news. And we do have some big news. New camera coming from Caddx. HDZero goggles shipping. A lot of stuff. Let's dive in, though, with our PSA, our public service announcements. Just quick items that we think might be important for you to know right at the beginning.
Yeah, and this is a good one. I think some people were waiting till the last day to vote for the MultiGP Global Qualifier, and they found yesterday, which was the last day, the 13th, they found that they were not able to vote. They accidentally took it down too early. So for anybody who's watching live tonight or who sees this before the end of the night tonight, you can go vote currently if you didn't get to vote before. So they opened it one more day for everybody so they could get in there and make sure to get a vote in.
So this is for anybody who went to vote and was like, wait a minute, did I miss it? It was supposed to be open.
Yeah.
And anybody who
forgot,
didn't realize they were supposed to vote. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Did you vote?
I did vote.
You did? Would it be inappropriate to ask who you voted for? Or would you want to keep that private?
This year I'll spread the word since it's the end of the voting anyway. I voted for AK's track. I flew them all. I felt like AK's was pretty much the best to me with the flow and the way everything felt and all that kind of stuff. So definitely was trying to consider breaking quads. Thought a lot about Lyman's thoughts and Johnny Five's thoughts and stuff. So
I feel almost embarrassed to say this because I'm like, who am I as a racer? You race more than me. And, certainly go to big Tiny Whoop races. You race really well, and you did really well in the Tiny Whoop races. You're legit a racer. And I'm like, I don't know why I said it that way. I guess I forgot. I forgot that you're actually like a really hardcore and skilled racer. Not lately,
but when I get into it, for sure. Yeah.
I thought, and I feel bad because AK won the last 2 years, but I mean, I thought his was the best.
Yep.
We'll see. We'll see what other people think. You put any thought into the idea that I've heard some people floating that there should be some way to anonymize them?
Yeah, I think we mentioned that last year, and I would expect MultiGP maybe will respond with doing that next year. I talked to Alex Suarez a little bit, and he kind of alluded to them maybe just being too late to make that decision.
What's to stop the guys from just telling? Like, it'll get out, right? Clearly,
but the difference is you don't have their a known name plastered there that you could vote for. I mean, that's to me the idea is that you'd have to get that information in DMs from somebody, or it definitely provides a layer of obfuscation and much more randomness. I think
a lot of people wouldn't pay attention; they just wouldn't know. The hardcore guys will just figure out who's who, probably.
Sure. The other thing I'll say is I just want to give a shout out at this point. This was the last time we'll talk about this probably. Well, next week we'll talk about who won. But MultiGP has made what I would call a 180 from last year when I complained about MultiGP. I did a little bit of complaining to them directly about their website and some of the volunteering and how all the stuff worked and getting communications done. And I'm not sure if it was my thoughts or somebody else's thoughts or just them wanting to revolutionize for this year, but they revamped the entire website. They have all the events planned, which we discussed beforehand. They're all available for you ahead of time. They're communicating constantly on Facebook. They even communicated immediately and fixed this and got this back up when they made the mistake. I just think it's like a huge change from what we've seen in the past for MultiGP. I love that they're communicating and making this stuff happen. And, they brought on the spec classes, which was a major complaint people had. And it's really good to see. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them for doing that.
Yeah. Mike Bergman says, see, complaining works. Well, we don't know for a fact that it was your complaints that got that, but I agree with you that when you complain about something and then it gets fixed, you need to give credit where credit's due.
100%. It's been nothing
really
but great info and timely information and all that stuff from them. So wonderful stuff.
Okay. Very exciting. That's our PSAs. We only had one PSA today. We're going to get into our actual news stories. And the first one is I'm shocked.
Yeah. This is something I think you've asked for before, if we want to talk about asking about stuff. But this is I would say shocked is a good way to put this. And some of you might be shocked to hear this. Others will be excited. Others will be like, why? But ExpressLRS is bringing SBUS to 3.3, which is the next major version. So now you'll be able to enable SBUS and use SBUS instead of CRSF for your protocol. The thing that everybody asked for, hey, why can't we add this? And it's archaic and all this stuff. But somebody finally got together. Pete Kendall, I believe, is the one who pushed got to put the pull request up. But yeah, it's good to see this stuff.
Yeah, and in case anybody isn't immediately clear on why you would want this, there are some flight controllers, F4-based flight controllers specifically, that have a dedicated SBUS pad, and it ties up a UART. And if you're not using SBUS, but you're using Crossfire, for example, the Xylo Stax flight controller that's in the Bardwell budget build is one of these. It has two full UARTs, UART 3 and UART 4, have a TX3 and an RX3, and then it has an SBUS pad. And if you're using like an ExpressLRS or a Crossfire receiver and you have a digital video transmitter, guess what? There's no way to put a GPS on that flight controller. There just isn't a UART for you. So if you had the ability to force ExpressLRS receiver to output SBUS, then you could free up a UART and you could use that SBUS pad.
I will say, I think in those cases though, you can use inverted CRSF, right?
So we asked for SBUS output, and the ExpressLRS devs said no. SBUS is old, it's slow, it's archaic, we don't want it. And what they gave us instead was the ability to put out inverted Crossfire, which lets the Crossfire signal work with the SBUS pad on the flight controller, and that's better, arguably. It's like lower latency, etc. But there are still cases where you legit need an SBUS signal. Like, do any come to mind?
I think I'm going to guess there's some wing cases, though that's typically PWM, but I believe there are some cases with that. Also, like there are some old flight controllers, I believe, with different firmwares that need it specifically that you can't convert. Anything on a firmware that doesn't support CRSF could be supported now with SBUS. So I think this kind of just fills in the gaps for people, where, hey, you've got some old device or old thing. Some people are running old firmware that may not even have CRSF. So all kinds of things that may help these niche cases. And that's one of the reasons they said, hey, we're not going to do this. But eventually they got together and made it happen. So.
Yeah, now, people in the chat are debating. By the way, Quick Flash, good to see you. Captain Bry, also good to see you. Some notable developers. Always feel really honored when they show up, that they take the time to be in my chat and share their knowledge. And they're saying just use inverted Crossfire, which is 1,000% correct. Inverted Crossfire is higher baud rate, I'm sure, than SBUS, lower latency. I don't think it supports telemetry. You need TX and RX to do telemetry.
Same case with SBUS.
Right. So, but there definitely are a few edge cases where you legit need SBUS. One of the ones is somebody was asking me about using ExpressLRS with a helicopter, and the helicopter, something about the gimbal or the stabilization in the helicopter, it needed an SBUS input. It literally could not, it didn't have a flight controller per se, but it needed an SBUS input. Somebody was asking me about what's that DJI flight controller, the old one, the DJI,
the NASA?
The NASA. Yeah. He had a DJI NASA. I was like, what are you doing with the I don't know. But the NASA apparently didn't support Crossfire input. It only supported SBUS, and it needed. So, for many people, this will not be needed. But it's very exciting that it is being done, because for the few people who needed the edge case, it's nice that it's there.
Yeah, also, for anybody who wants to do this right away, it's coming in 3.3. It does not. I talked to Captain Bry today, and he said that they are no longer, they're getting major stuff in smaller revisions, so you don't have to change the binding and OTA and everything. But they're going to do an RC for 3.3 to get it ready, and then it'll be coming out in 3.3. But if you want to do it now, there's a video we have linked to show you how to build it through Configurator, because you can choose a PR in there and then build from that PR. So.
We got two questions in the chat that I think are worth acknowledging. One is a comment from Captain Bry, who says, with inverted Crossfire, you still get telemetry. Because Crossfire capable of doing full duplex, Bry? Is that what it's doing?
I think he means if you also have a TX, but if you're using the SBUS, you don't necessarily get it in the same way.
Yeah, no, because
right? Because
it can't
SBUS
be
needs smart port, right?
Yeah, it can't be full duplex because it's an RX pad, and only TX pads do full duplex.
Yeah,
he just means you can get telemetry if there's a spare TX pad.
Yeah, whereas the SBUS, I don't think you get that option. I don't know how it works with ExpressLRS, but a normal SBUS, you would need smart port or something.
Okay. Right? But if you have a flight controller with only an SBUS pad and no TX broken out, which they do exist, then you. The other comment is from, the name is in Cyrillic, I think, and I can't read it, but they ask, can you please advise any documentation on ExpressLRS principles? There are dozens of instructions about how to flash and configure, but no word on how the protocol works. I would recommend, so the documentation for that is the source code. Haha, good luck. I would recommend you join the ExpressLRS Discord, where many of the devs hang out in their spare time. I'm sure that some of them would be happy to chat with you about these questions because they're gigantic nerds and that's just what they like to do.
Yeah, I've seen many detailed conversations about stuff. If you have good questions and you're interested in working with them and stuff, I'm sure somebody will help you out. All
right. So that's very, very cool. I mean, the ExpressLRS devs, you're just making me want to whine at you more and more. You just it's like when your dog barks and you pet him or you give him a treat. You're reinforcing the behavior. Don't reinforce my whining by giving me things. You don't have that problem.
Is this where we quietly say F port?
Do we want F port? I mean, why not? I'll just ask for things.
I
feel like there's other things we could ask for.
Yeah, I think at this point they're doing a great job. That's what I'm going to say.
I can't complain.
I'm running out of things to ask for. I think that's where I'm at.
Damn it! You don't have that problem because Henry is a lovely, quiet, peaceful, well-behaved dog, right?
That's true.
He just naps all the time.
Oh,
yeah. All right.
Sample A.
F port would give us telemetry.
Yes, that's why I mentioned. Yeah, but you need a
Why
TX,
not?
right?
Why not? Get on it. Alrighty. Next up, we got a new. Somebody just asked me, Blunty, what's the best? Literally, they asked me this in email. They said, "What's the best low light digital camera?" And I said, "Caddx Polar." And they said, "No. I have Walksnail." And I said, "You have no choice." Because basically, you can have a micro camera, you have a 14 millimeter camera, or you can have a 19 millimeter camera, and that's it. They're all the same for Walksnail. But that's not true anymore, or at least it's not going to be true.
Yeah, we've got a tease from Caddx here, a video they posted on Facebook, where they're showing a comparison between whatever their camera is set to, and then this nice camera through the goggles here, where we can see what looks like incredibly bright picture, pretty grainy as we expect from that oversaturation. When you do overdo brightness like that, you're going to get the grain, but it looks really flyable is what I would call it. So it's interesting. Like we mentioned, we talked about this a little before the show. We're not sure what the, what the person filming the goggles is actually filming their camera settings at, right? We don't know what their ISO's at or if it's auto or anything like that, but it definitely looks pretty bright. So
yeah, so we have to take this with a grain of salt. It's possible that the camera that's being used here is just set to some super dark setting, although I don't see an exposure adjustment when they put it in the goggles. It doesn't look like it suddenly opens up.
Right.
So it seems like they've got a pretty good night camera. It's possible that I got this in the mail just a couple days ago and we'll be testing it before release. So,
well, if that happened, I would be looking out for the video.
Yeah. Whenever that release date is.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive though. And it really expands the Walksnail repertoire.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's there's sunlight out there. It's so bright. Yeah. So I'm definitely interested to see how they do. As we're seeing, we're still seeing some innovation from them. I know firmware slowed down a little bit, but they're still been working on it. So yeah, hopefully we keep seeing stuff like this from them.
Ooh, Quick Flash points out over-the-air updates. That's what we want to whine about now. Forgot all about that.
Oh boy.
I've gotten so used to flashing ExpressLRS receivers over Wi-Fi. I'm just like, fine. No, OTA updates. Yes, that's what we Sorry to change the subject. I sussed that we were close to done with that one. Did I cut you off?
Yeah, no, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. I wouldn't want to interrupt you. I know that the audience really enjoys giving me a hard time about that.
All right. Next up, we've got basically almost like a PSA, but just some information for people that we've got from the HDZero product page, and also an email that was sent out just so we can give you some confirmation of information here. But it looks like on 3/22 they're finishing up the HDZero goggles. It's so close that they probably got the date correct. I mean, it's going to be 8 days away. So if that day is correct, then it looks like U.S. orders will ship April 1st based on that date, and non-U.S. customers get their China shipments March 23rd and on. 100 sets a day go into these various places. So yeah, that gives you some idea. Also, an order number was sent out and asked about 13715, and that was 1,000 goggles in front of them in the queue. So maybe you have some idea where you're at based on that order number, if you want to know, where you're at.
Wow, 1,000 a day. I mean, 100 a day with 1,000 ahead of them. I wonder how many orders they got in the pre-order. I mean, it feels like I think the original batch was like 500 or 600. It was a few hundred.
Yeah, 300 maybe, or 500. Yeah, something like that.
I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe 400 plus 100. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And now they've got at least 1,000. I mean, a lot of people bought those goggles. This is
they landed at a great place in the market, I would say, for sure.
That's all I've been using for analog and HDZero. Like, those are just my new analog goggles. They're so good.
Yes.
So
well, that's
good.
Interesting to see.
People are excited about that.
I need to call an audible real quick before we go to our next segment.
Okay.
That I have something I forgot to include. So give me 1 second here.
What was there was one comment, which was Eirik Toft says we want spectator mode on Walksnail while you're doing that. I ranted about that on a live stream. Did you get that for the Clips channel?
I haven't got there yet, but I believe so.
Okay.
I believe we're going to.
As soon as that goes up, I'm going to freaking forward that to Drew, so he can forward it to Walksnail.
Okay, so here's my audible here. I'll throw this in the
yes, sir.
In here. But so Rotor Riot, I got an email from Rotor Riot about the Walksnail goggles from Fat Shark, Dominator HD goggles, and they appear to have permanently dropped the price. They are not using like discount or anything like that. It pretty clearly says Dominator price drop. $119 off, and they're now $480. It says new price.
There we go. Now we got a title for it. Yeah, good point. That is well worth mentioning. Do we have anything we can show about that? Yeah, fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, permanent drop of price, $119 off. That has led some people to ask, are they discontinuing the goggles? Is Fat Shark getting out of the business? Which I would say surely not. But then I'm like, well, we did see that same thing happen. They dropped the price of the HDZero standalone receiver, and shortly thereafter, Fat Shark dropped HDZero. So I don't think so. I have not gotten any sort of sense that direction. But
I'll tell you. Okay, so this links a couple things for me, and I'll just explain real quickly what my thinking is.
Okay.
There is an unnamed source. So I don't necessarily know if they want to be named. They said it on a podcast somewhere, but it seemed a little off the cuff, so I'm not going to go crazy about it. Okay. But they stated that Fat Shark may be being sold again. We know that Fat Shark was sold to Unusual Machines with Rotor Riot, which I believe is a company.
Did that actually go through?
Well,
I don't think that actually
we have
completed.
a news story today. We have a news story today about that $20 million IPO of Unusual Machines. So this is how they get the deal done, is they've started the IPO today to make the deal happen. What the person was saying is they're going to be sold again. So it's possible they do this IPO and then get sold out again as a private company or something. I don't really know how that would work. But to me, shakeups, IPOs, changing hands, I mean, that is a time when you would relook at your hardware situation and what you've invested, and then consider what you'd move around. So
maybe you'd like to move some product and get some cash on the books, sort of a situation.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell, like, what is Fat Shark's real investment in these goggles? You know, like, well, like they helped with a mold, and then they bought a bunch of VRXs, right? Or you know, like,
I mean, that's
if you really think about it, they're not selling VTXs. They never went in on that. I bet their total investment is not crazy. They didn't like do R&D. They didn't spend a bunch of money on developing Walksnail. Greg didn't even seem super excited about it when, you know.
Well, don't forget that they originally acted like Walksnail didn't exist and wasn't going to publicize themselves. And I was there the day of the release at Rampage when they were like, well, our manufacturing partner prefers not to be named. And then Walksnail released their website and they were like, oh, I guess this is it. I can say that the avatar goggles on Caddx's site have not been marked down. This appears to be... What?
They did go down, didn't they?
Did they go down?
They dropped like $50 or something. Yeah, they dropped $40 because they were $600, I think. Is that correct?
I mean, $559, right?
I believe they were $600 before.
But these are $480.
Right, which were also $600. I don't know if it's related, but I noticed that the price was also a little bit lower on the Walksnail side, though they're not really related.
You could ask yourself, what's their cost? How much profit are they seeing on this? That's a fairly substantial drop. And you could ask yourself, why is Fat Shark undercutting Walksnail? Why does Fat Shark feel the need to undercut Walksnail? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well,
but interesting things to consider. Glad we slid that in there, and I guess we'll see how that progresses and what they decide to do. I mean, it's not like we expect them to make a Dominator HD2. That's definitely not going to happen.
No,
so,
no.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's a little weird to drop the only HD headset that you have that you talked a lot about and is your main flagship product down to $480 as a new price. I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. It's the more I think about it. When I first saw it, I was like, well, you know, HDZero goggles are selling. They probably just want to move some product. But the more I think about it, the weirder it seems. The fact that it is not a coordinated move between Caddx and Fat Shark because they're not matching their price points like you would expect if it was coordinated. And then the nonsense with Fat Shark getting sold and RotorHazard getting sold out of Red Cat. And then Fat Shark's history of... you know, the way they dropped HDZero like a hot potato, and I think there's acrimony between Walksnail and Fat Shark. I think that they are not necessarily sort of all hand in hand down a rosy path together.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell that from the initial messaging and the follow-up messaging and the follow-up to the follow-up messaging when they continued to say that they did not provide the goggle molds to Walksnail for the goggles. It was not produced in the same factory. Like, that whole story just smells bad.
I mean, I hesitate because I don't want to be accused of rumor mongering. But the more I think about it, the question that some people ask me, which is, are Fat Shark, the two questions people asked are, number one, is Fat Shark coming out with a V2 of the goggles? And I was like, it just does not seem plausible. This close to release. And Fat Shark has never been in a hurry to iterate. Fat Shark has always been forced to iterate by the market, in my opinion. And then the other question people asked is Fat Shark dropping Walksnail? But then where the hell do they go from there? Okay,
I don't know what else they do.
They sell the company and Greg retires? I don't know if that's even plausible. Anyway, that's very interesting.
I mean, they're IPOing on the back of something, right? Like, all they have, like, I mean, Usual Machines has whatever else they were doing before, but I mean, their portfolio shows their major purchase recently, which is Fat Shark and RotorHazard. So, like, realistically, you're IPOing for $20 million. RotorHazard's not worth $20 million, I don't think. I mean, maybe it is, but my understanding of their income and their numbers that Red Cat has shown in the past and those sorts of things, it does not seem like that's the case. So then you, like, if Fat Shark has no income and drops their only product, what are they even doing, and why would there be any value to the IPO? And so I don't know. Like, that stuff doesn't really make sense for them to end doing any business, and they don't do analog right now, really, other than HDO2s that are not the best thing on the market, and they still have HDMI problems with those goggles, and it just seems like a weird world for Fat Shark right now, and I guess we'll have to find out what they end up doing.
Yeah, Fat Shark as a company, how do they exist if they don't sell Walksnail at this point? How do they exist? Even if you said, well, they've got some other system in the works, if that were true, which I don't think it is, for them to have gone all in on HDZero and then just suddenly went, we changed our mind.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if that's exactly how it went. Like, I don't know if that's how Fat Shark would characterize it, but that's how some customers see it. For them to then do something like that with Walksnail would be such a, like, how would customers ever trust them again? So they can't be dropping Walksnail, but then what are they doing? Don't know.
Yeah, and some people would say, oh, they're going...
They could sell HDZero again.
Some people are saying, they would go to the commercial side, military side, all that kind of stuff, but we've seen the whole thing where they got literally divested from Red Cat because they're a consumer.
Exactly.
Like Red Cat dropped, there's literally, if they had point there, they would have been kept onto the Red Cat portfolio. So,
All right.
I don't know.
Well, lots of speculation.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we didn't forget that one. And now we come to the bottom of the hour. I've always wanted to say that like the radio hosts do. The bottom of the hour.
Is that what that means?
Yeah. The bottom of the hour.
The 30 is I guess I never
See,
even thought about that.
The top of the hour.
The top of the hour, yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Come to the bottom of the hour.
It just seems like the end of the hour, not the middle of the hour. But yeah, that's fair enough.
That's the bottom.
Yeah.
Right? Am I wrong about that? I mean, this could be similar. We were talking earlier about how Linus and Luke Linus almost made a big mistake and Luke had to correct him. This could be a similar version of that where I've confused what the bottom of the hour is and if I'm about to embarrass myself. But
I guess we'll find out in the chat.
Maybe not quite as bad. C-Mac says he can hear that 4080 going in the background. Now, that can't be true because you've got noise reduction going.
No. Yeah. That is, if anything, it's the air conditioner. But it may be at a frequency where it's not being filtered out.
Yeah, it's all right. Sounds good. It's time to do our plugs at the bottom of the hour before we pick up with the rest of the stories. The plugs are where we tell you websites you should go to support us and give us money. But instead of having sponsors, should get sponsors. I'm not opposed to sponsors. I'd read a sponsor spot on the news. But instead, we just plug our own stuff. Like this page.
Yeah, the FPVKnowItAll.com, which is your website where you can go check out the ultimate FPV shopping list. And that's a set of product recommendations for new and old pilots in the hobby. And you can check out the different categories to find the things you're going to look for. Maybe you're looking for an analog goggle and you can find some analog goggle options there. You've got cheap options, expensive options. You've kind of got a reasoning for everything you put on there to make it hopefully simpler to figure out what you're trying to buy.
Yeah, and all that stuff, most of that stuff is affiliate links, which is how it helps us support the work we're doing here. We have also got ItsBlunty.com. That's your website. And the main thing that I'd like to refer people to there is your one-on-one calls. Blunty will get on the phone with you for a $50 flat rate, $50 an hour, and help you solve your problems with your quad. Jump on a Zoom call, etc. Very reasonable rate for that, getting a problem solved, or just asking you questions. ItsBlunty.com.
Yeah. And next up, we've got Joshua Bardwell live stream clips, which is a channel I manage, and we show clips from the live streams on Sundays and Mondays that you do, the Q&A. If anybody doesn't know, you do this every Sunday and Monday pretty much. And then we also, obviously you're watching the news right now, or maybe you're missing it and watching this later, in which you can know that news is on Tuesdays. And you get clips from the live stream clips channel if you don't want to watch the whole thing or you want to get the highlights.
Yeah. I enjoy these highlights too. I'll see these pop up in my feed and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was a fun conversation. And then I go and I check the comments and see what people have to say about it. Lastly, we want to tell you about SearchFPV.com. SearchFPV is a multi-store FPV search engine where you can pick the stores you want, even by region, like Canada. I live in Canada, and I want to find a T-Motor F60, and I want it to be in stock. And then, boom, you just search, and you find out that there's not one available in Canada. Oh, no, they are available, well, sort of. So, unfortunately, we are at the mercy of the store's search engine. So sometimes the results are not exactly like it looks like we're just getting all T-Motor stuff. But we do have a T-Motor F60 Pro 5 in stock. Boom. Just like that. SearchFPV.com. We're working really hard to make that as usable as possible. And those are the plugs. That didn't take too long.
Yeah.
All right. On with the stories then.
Yeah. Next up, we've got a neat story for people looking for race timer solutions. This was shared by one of the know-it-alls in your Discord to let us know about. I believe that. Let me get the right person here. That was Byron Lewis, not a know-it-all actually, just one of the members of your Discord.
Maybe he should be.
Maybe he should be. Shared us a link to RotorHazard. So RotorHazard has an ability for people who don't know. These are, if you want to time your racing, you're using a lap timer. And typically that's either the Immersion RC has an 8-way lap timer that they're hopefully restocking pretty soon. They've talked about, and those are coming soon.
It's been out of stock for literally years.
Yeah, or you can make a Delta 5 race timer. Or you can make, I believe RotorHazard has another design that's not quite the Delta 5, but yeah, there's some different options for race timers that you can make. There's also Pit Flight I've made before, which is like a specific board you buy and things. But now there's another option, and this option seems pretty cool, and if it works out well, pretty freaking useful and way cheaper than trying to find a Raspberry Pi, because the other solutions use a Raspberry Pi typically. Yeah,
so the Immersion RC 8-way lap RF is what all the pro races would like to be using, but it costs, I mean, when I got one, I was given one years ago to do a review, and then I donated it to the Knoxville MultiGP chapter, and they still use it to this day. And it was like $600 at the time. It hasn't been produced and has been out of stock. I've seen used ones going for $500. You know, they're just now making a new batch of them, which is really cool, but I'm sure they're going to be expensive as hell, too expensive for most people. And using one of these roll your own solutions like the Delta 5 used to be cheap and simple, but these days a Raspberry Pi is $150, $130 if you can find one. So they've gotten even more expensive. This solution, as far as I can tell, it's literally an Arduino Nano, which is like, you can get them for like, you know, $15 for 5. And an RX 5808 receiver module. I don't know how much they are. They're not too expensive. You literally just solder them together. You plug the USB port into your laptop. You run the RotorHazard software on your laptop, and bing, bang, bong, you've got an individual race timer. It can work with the Raspberry Pi if you've got a Raspberry Pi, so it will work with a standard. But even then, like, it's a lot simpler than wiring up a Delta 5. But I like the idea of plugging this right into the USB on my laptop and just having an individual lap timer. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, neat stuff.
So if you're looking for race timing solutions, this is a new, really, really inexpensive and simple one. We haven't tried it yet, but we wanted to let you know it was out there.
Yeah, it's just so incredibly cheap compared to other options, you know, that it's definitely worth taking a look at.
Yeah. I guess that's not that different from a Delta 5. Like, I'm building a Delta 5 right now, and it's got the circuit board and it's got some voltage regulators and so forth. I guess what this is doing is it's powering the 5808 from the Nano.
Yep, and then it's taking the info right into the Nano. Yeah.
And it doesn't, I guess it doesn't have, I guess one downside of this is that you would either need a really long USB cable to put the sensor by the start-finish gate, or you would need to put your laptop by the start-finish gate, which would have obvious risks. Whereas if you've got the Raspberry Pi solution, you can all put that in a box and connect to it via Wi-Fi or via Ethernet. Wesley Vardy says, missed opportunity. Should have used an ESP32 for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Yes, Wesley, that's a great idea. Hey, isn't this an open source project?
Yes, as in the fact it is. So, yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah, this got me thinking, Blunty, because like I said, I am building a Delta 5 right now for a tutorial. But when I saw this, I thought, is there really any point in building a full Delta 5? And should everybody just use this? And I don't know if that, well, I don't know.
We should point out it's MIT license. It's not necessarily GPL v3. So.
Yeah. Okay. It's still open source though, right?
Yeah.
Wesley Vardy, Captain Bryce says that the Chorus 32 runs on an ESP32. Does Chorus 32 work with RotorHazard though? Because I think that RotorHazard, so there's Lifetime and there's RotorHazard, are two event management software that connect to these race timers and, manage all the racers and so forth. Those are and then there's one other I don't remember, but those are the two that I think most people are using. Oh, well. I'm trying to crowdsource research into timing systems. Somebody points out this is worth a mention. The quad rank race timer. I know nothing about this, but let's see here. One ESP32. I like the sound of that. One RX5808. Yeah, like the sound of that. Oh, that's it?
Some resistors. It looks like this build uses resistors. Maybe a difference between the ESP or maybe...
Runs on Android. Sorry, I cut you off there, Blunty.
Yeah, it looks like this is specifically like its own thing, right?
Yeah. This may be a one-channel system, whereas the others can support up to 8 racers. This looks like it's only one channel, though I don't know if that's true. Very cool. I got to look into this. Because everybody who races needs race timing.
Yes.
And
definitely.
Most people aren't going to spend the money on an 8-way. All right. That's really cool. Thanks for passing that along. I got to get on the Discord server and find out what the state of the art in race timing is these days. It's changing so fast. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are waiting on the lap RFs to come back in stock and just are going to pay the premium to get a lap RF. It seems like I've heard that from a lot of people.
I mean, maybe, I suppose, it's very good hardware. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I suppose for people who run a big chapter, it's going to be, I'm pretty sure it was $500 or $600. I could be wrong. I could be misremembering. How much was the lap RF 8-way? Does anybody remember? So it's going to be more expensive than that because it's 3-4 years later.
I think 5 something, if I remember correctly.
Is it? Is that the current price?
No, they don't have
that's the old price. Okay.
Yeah.
So if it was $400 or $600 5 years ago, it's going to be $1,000 today, right? How could it not be? And the other thing is that
it's 499 euros currently, like the old unstocked listing.
Oh, the app does support multiple racers. All right, we got to talk about this offline because I don't want to spend the whole news talking about race timers. This thing looks badass, though. Look at this, Blunty. Look at this shit. That's badass.
It definitely looks cool. I would be interested to know. A lot of people have problems with dialing it in and figuring out how to do the thresholds and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. The other thing about the Immersion RC Lap RF 8-way is it only works with live time. Does it not? Am I wrong that it doesn't work with RotorHazard? And a lot of people who feel that RotorHazard is easier to sort of tune the thresholds and stuff and get fix problems. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to the next story.
All right. Next up, we've got Cinematic of the Week. It's been a while since we've had one, but I felt like this was an acceptable submission.
Okay. This is from Joshua Turner. Can I play the music or should I keep it muted to avoid a copyright strike?
Keep it muted.
Okay. So if you want to see the full clip, it's linked in the video description below. We're going to show just a little excerpt of it to whet your appetite and get a little bit of a reaction. We don't want to take views from this creator. And we're not going to play the music to avoid a copyright strike. Damn. Okay, you got me. The Matterhorn. Wow, that is a hell of a view.
I just say one uncut shot. The entire shot is one uncut shot.
It's a 2-minute 48 video. So, oof, I love this. I love climbing a ridge like this. So just epic. It's gorgeous video. I mean, you guys are not seeing the full video quality because I'm streaming at 4 megabits per second. It's freaking gorgeous. Is it in? Yeah, it could be in 4K. It looks really good. Look at this cloud.
Excellent shots. Good camera. Wonderful stabilization. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Good flying. All that kind of stuff for sure.
No, like what is that? What is that thing? It looks like a trash dumpster. It could be a trash dumpster.
It's kind of a little hut.
Actually, a human couldn't like be here, could they? Doesn't seem like a human could physically. Maybe if they came up the backside. I don't know. Oh my God, he's gonna turn left and there's gonna be the big reveal. We gotta watch that. I can't not. Oh, the sun comes out. Beautiful. Oh, here it comes. The big reveal. Shit. And we're going to dive?
Beautiful shots.
Oh, we're not going to dive. We're going to rotate. Wow. I don't want to watch the whole thing. Okay, I got to stop. We've almost watched the whole thing. I'm going to ruin the video for everybody. Go check this out. Summiting the Matterhorn with an FPV drone 5K. That's a Chimera 7. Go give Joshua Turner the views. Brilliant.
Yeah. Go give him like, subscribe, go comment on the video, all that kind of stuff. Definitely a cool video.
Let's see here. We could try to rank it. Difficulty? Hard to say. I don't know.
It's tough to know because we don't know where his positioning was and like, what he's working with and like how long that drone battery lasts and what his camera's like and you know what I mean? I think that's a tough one because that's
difficulties at least a 3, maybe a 4. Use of space. Yeah. I mean, how could you not give that use of space is a weird one because if you show me something and I wanted you to go there and then you don't go there, I mark you down for use of space. But since he tightly controlled everything I saw, it didn't leave me wanting. It feels like he used the space that he allowed me to know existed. I mean, so it's probably a 4 or a 5 for use of space. Production, just the fact that there's no jello gives it a markup on production.
I was gonna say I like the difficulty part also. Slarty Bartfast in the chat says got to be windy, which is definitely true. It's got to be windy, right?
This is more difficult than it looks like.
Yeah.
Let's see. Difficulty, use of space. I can't remember all the categories because I'm not in that headspace.
It's not Sam says me thinking about the TX signal while watching that orbit start. Yeah, the whole time I was thinking about where is he standing, and then he went the wrong way for me, what I expected and stuff. So yeah, kind of interesting.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I can't wait to finish it after the show. The next thing we're gonna do. No, I didn't make a damn card for this. Well, don't I suck? Hold on, I can fix this very, very quickly.
All right.
1 second.
Next up, we've got the creator spotlight, which is what I'm calling the community spotlight now because I think we're expanding it to just creators. That seems like a good fit for it. Sure. And today's creator spotlight is Fly to Survive by Johnny 5. Johnny 5 is doing a video series. He went behind the scenes at DRL Miami into the finals there and checked out what was going on with the racers behind the scenes. This first one is an interview with Vanover. So if you want to get some info from Vanover, hear how he was thinking and what he was talking about. I thought it was a great interview. And yeah, he's going to have more coming out on his channel. So if you go subscribe, you'll be able to see all the different interviews he ends up pushing.
Very cool. Yeah, there were 14,000 people at this race. Giant race. Giant crowd for drone racing. He said he interviewed all the pilots, I think, if I remember hearing him correctly. So there's a lot more content in this direction coming out. And he always seems to try to make kind of almost documentary style content, not just like, oh, here's a YouTube video, I talked to this guy. So very, very cool stuff.
Yeah.
All right, link to that in the video description. Now it's time. It's time for
Super Chats.
There are no Super Chats.
No Super Chat.
Instead of reading Super Chats, let's just glare at the audience for 30 seconds or so.
I feel like this segment ends up being, oh, you guys didn't give us any Super Chats? Which was not the original intention.
Okay. Apparently we didn't have any super chats. Now people will leave super chats. That's okay. We don't need them. We could just get right on with the show. No, wait, we don't want to. We're rewarding the wrong behavior again. If we just get on with the show, then we need to make them suffer. Oh, Black Jungle, thank you for 220 reais. Hi. Okay, that'll do. Appreciate it. Last up, this is our last segment for the day. Is going to be It's Barely News. And we're going to put it, the first barely news story is one that a lot of people probably think is not barely news. It's major news, but we don't agree. Oh, hang on. OTR Flyer, thanks for a $20 super chat. Rock Crawler FPV, thanks for a $20 super. See, whining wins. That's whining gets results.
That was not my goal.
That was my goal.
Okay, fair enough.
This is how I become a Karen. I see now how the Karens happen. When you whine and then you get what you want, after a while, you just learn that that's how to get what you want. Nope. Got it. This is MadsTech, and a lot of people are asking about this sort of severe bug in the O3 system he seems to have found. Here's the video. But Blunty, after discussing it and how to cover it, we're not convinced. You're not. I should say you are really, because
I don't think he presents it as that big of a deal. I think he's just showing that there's a bug with the system, and here's how you avoid it.
Fair.
I think a lot of people are jumping on it and thinking it's a crazy, crazy bad thing, which I don't agree with.
Yeah, it's
after doing some research on this, it basically looks like MadsTech is saying here that it broadcasts on the 5.17-ish, somewhere in there. I can't remember exactly the center, but somewhere in the 5.150 to 5.250 gigahertz range, which is a range DJI has used before, and he mentions in the video. But it looks like they possibly accidentally enabled it here. One thing we were able to find out, and it looks like maybe one of the issues here, is the ham file is not like disabling or enabling this 5.1 thing. And so you could make a case to say like, hey, maybe they meant to do this, because in the EU, our other link here is a EU law, and I was able to find in the EU that they drafted legislation to ask all of the members of the EU to basically add rules to cover 5.15 to 5.25 for UAS, in addition to some other bands. So this text basically adds that into the EU. I'm not sure if all those have passed in all the regions, but it's possible that this is just partial compliance for that. One thing Matt points out in the video, though, is obviously our antennas are not tuned for 5.1. They're tuned for 5.8, so you could see some loss because of the antenna. I'm not sure what the dB difference would be, how much loss you actually have there.
Using that to carry the video signal, or is it just some kind of like telemetry carrier?
Only on auto, yes. If you flip it on auto and you power it on without changing anything, after a fresh flash, it appears to be doing this on auto, yes.
But then as soon as you arm, it goes...
No. If you switch to manual, or if you switch back to auto from manual, it seems to change. That's what I've gathered from the video.
So it's unclear. So it's unclear whether this is a bug or intentional. It's unclear whether this is a regulatory violation. As you pointed out, if it's a regulatory violation, no one cares.
I think the thing we would point out here is that, as far as we know, the region on goggles, this is specifically a goggles 2 issue, not a V2 issue. There's only goggles 2 and the O3 area in it. What I would say is, as far as we know, the region is fixed through the ham hack to be FCC. If that's the case, then we would expect this to turn off if it was intentional, because this is not a licensed spectrum in the US.
Okay.
So that being said, this is definitely a bug. The question is it an intentional bug is it like an unintentional bug for everywhere, or was this something they tried to add for the EU because of rules and accidentally put it everywhere, right? I think that's more where my head would be at with this.
And the reason I wanted to cover it is because there's some confusion and FUD about it, and if I can, I want us to clear that up for our viewers.
Yeah. The main thing I just want to remind people of here is the way to fix this is switch to manual. You should probably be flying on manual anyway, because auto kind of jumps around. But I think the main thing people need to know is just, if you are worried about this at all, if you have any concern, you can just flip to manual and you'll know that it's on the 5.8 that you set it to on the correct channels. And tell me if I'm correct about this, if you flip it to manual, if you prefer to run auto for some reason, then if you flip it to manual and then back to auto after flashing, it fixes the problem. Yeah, testing showed that flipping to manual and back to auto seems to pull it back to where it's supposed to be.
Well, as usual, Ian is incredibly thorough.
Yes.
And finds these weird little things. But the flip side of that is sometimes he finds a very obscure, weird little thing that maybe doesn't deserve as much attention as people end up giving it. And we don't know which of those this is. But
yeah, it's hard to know. I would expect that in most cases this won't be a problem for anybody. Like I said, I think in the EU in most cases it's becoming legal if it's not already, because that was in 2021. The original rule was drafted up for them to ask everybody to do that. And in the US it doesn't seem like the FCC is knocking down anybody's doors, but yeah.
Well, the issue with the antenna, though, separate from the regulatory issue, the issue with the antenna is very real. If your antenna is tuned to 5.8 gigahertz, then broadcasting on 5.1 is not going to give you great range.
It's definitely going to be worse. I'm not sure how much worse and how that whole thing works, but yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, you can check out MadsTech's video if you want the details, but when people hear broadcasting on wrong frequency, then they lose their mind, and I just thought we could add a little context to that. Hopefully we succeeded. Before we continue, let me read all of these amazing super chats that came in. We got a couple more barely news. But Flush FPV, thanks for $10 super chat. Aber the Ham, thanks for a $2 super chat. Aber asks, what's your PID tune? I assume that's a joke. It's 4. 4 is the best PID. Oliver Datha, thank you for €5. Which of you uses AM32 and has the firmware in the future? I mean, I have one quad with an AM32 ESC. There aren't very many ESCs that come with it, and I'm not set up to flash it. Do you have any AM32?
I think there's still only one. It's the SkyStars ESC, as far as I know, that comes with AM32. So it definitely has not got much adoption. I still only have one AM32 ESC. It's that one you sent me for testing that was supposed to be a Diatone product that the Diatone never released.
Yeah, whatever happened to that? Nothing. Diatone didn't come out with it. Michael Dunn, thanks for a $5 super chat. Are we tithing now? I mean, if you want to. I'm not going to just glare at you and whine at you if you don't. But Private Kill 5, thanks for 20 CZK. CZK.
Kroner?
That is a Czech Koruna. Thank you for that. Birgir Ivarsson, thank you for 3,000 Icelandic kroner, I believe. With a name like Ivarsson, I'm going to assume it's Icelandic. No, Icelandic krona. One IFPV, thanks for a $2 super chat. What's the average airspeed of a laden swallow? Matt Yarborough, thanks for a $2 super chat. Marley Mason, thank you for £2. And Chris Blair, thanks for a $5 super chat. I would totally pay to sponsor the FPV News. You can via super chats. You're not getting very much for it.
I was going to say, if you wanted to pay a bunch, you could probably get a spot if you really wanted it. So.
I don't usually do paid ad spots on my videos because I feel like that's a certain type of content where your integrity is paramount. I would consider doing paid ad spots on the news because we're just reading the news. Then to put an ad on that doesn't feel like, I don't know, maybe not from an FPV company, which of course then would.
Yeah, I think when we talked about this before, our kind of consensus was, as long as it's not like a direct FPV company, like somebody we would discuss on the news about, then we would.
That would be a conflict. But I'd read a NordVPN ad break or something, on the news, because we're not really covering NordVPN. Anyway, but we don't get enough views. That's the thing. People come. I get sponsor offers, and they're like, "Hey, you want to read an ad break?" And I'm like, "Well, I could put it on the news." And they look at how many views we get, and they're like, "Nah, no, I'll pay you for that." There you go. Aaron Johnson, thanks for a $2 super chat. Now we're caught up on super chats, and we can continue.
Right.
This is a great one.
Yeah. I'm proud of my title for this one, so I'm gonna read my title for this one.
Okay.
Man alone uses drone to fly phone to get home. That's the title of this story. And that's a fact. A stranded motorist has used his DJI drone. This is a recreation picture, but this is essentially what they say. This is essentially what they say he did. He strapped he was stuck in the middle of the Oregon wilderness with no service. And he couldn't get a text message out. So he thought quick. He put out his DJI drone. He strapped his phone. He got a text message already. He hit send, and he flew the drone straight up so it could send when it got service up in the air. And it actually worked. He was able to get, he brought it back down. He saw that the message was sent, and people came to get him.
That's brilliant.
That's some clever thinking, man. You could get stuck out there. It's cold, you know. So
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I mean, that's really brilliant. You do an SMS because SMSs don't need like high, they don't need 5G to send. They don't need data. They go via a separate, I don't know how it works, but SMS is going to get through if nothing else will. It'll keep trying to send. And that's crazy. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Smart stuff. So yeah, yet another way a drone has saved people that I don't think we expected. Yeah.
Yeah. Another way drones are saving people is by catching thieves who are trying to break into their property. I watched this whole video, actually. I don't really know this channel very well. Maybe I should. But these guys make all kinds of stuff. I see them working on that Mark Rober Glitterbomb keyword. I see what you're doing there.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. They built a Pixhawk drone with LEDs, paint launchers, glitter bombs, and then the coolest thing to me is they set it up so it would auto-detect movement with their security system, and the drone would fly over to where the person was autonomously and like do a search path and like shout loud noise at them and stuff. It was the automated stuff that to me was like the coolest. Very, very cool stuff.
Yeah, neat project from them for sure. I'm not familiar with them either. Seems a lot of people are. They have 13 million subscribers, but pretty neat use of technology and drones and ingenuity.
Check this out. So they needed to charge the drones, so they put these spring-loaded pogo pins on the feet, and they made this gigantic metal pad that's basically a charging pad. See? And each of these, like, one's positive, one's negative, one's positive, one's negative. So if the drone lands anywhere on this pad, the pogo pins make contact based on the spacing, and then it charges.
Clever.
That's really cool.
Cool. Neat stuff.
Well, check that out. It's linked in the video description.
Along with everything else we've talked about today.
What's next?
Next up, we want to let you know that Orqa FPV.Sim has got an update. They're calling it 2.0. That doesn't seem like that quite big of an update, so we do have it in. It's barely news, but it is pretty cool. They've added just a couple extra features onto the normal release, so it's not like an extra listing or anything. It's an update for the same thing here, but they've added multiplayer to this.
Oh, nice.
Freestyle multiplayer. So it's P2P, your direct connection, but they're getting there. They're eventually doing servers, I believe, at some point in the future. They've also got a global race contest where you can set a time on a global leaderboard, which has been missing before that. And they've also got a new menu layout and some better controller calibration, and they redesigned some of the maps as well. So
I've always been impressed with this ever since you and I did our simulator roundup. That was where I first tried this. It's free to play, which is really nice, and the physics are pretty good. The main thing that I thought was missing from it, which given that it's free, how much can you complain? It had a little bit of lack of levels, just a few levels. Didn't have multiplayer, so they've addressed some of this stuff, and it's very cool to see them continuing to develop it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even addressing the levels issue, where you got a couple DLC if you want to download some extra levels. Anyway, if you haven't flown this, absolutely go to Steam and try it. Okay,
yeah, it is free.
It's free,
so definitely worth trying out.
Yeah. So very cool. Thank you, Orqa, for continuing to work on that.
When people ask me for what sim they should try if they're just getting in or something, I always recommend Orqa because it's free. So there's no barrier. You know what I mean? If you've got a TX already, you can try this for no extra work. It doesn't take too crazy of a computer to run. You can kind of try it out. You get in the middle there and figure out what's going on. So
yeah, I think this was our pick for best free sim. There are other free sims out there, but we thought this ticked a lot of boxes.
Hold on, you missed one. We got one. Yeah, so next up, We've got Unusual Machines. We mentioned at the beginning of the show a little bit when we talked about Fat Shark. The Unusual Machines, who owns Fat Shark and or who will own, presumably, Fat Shark and Rotor Riot.
Because it hasn't gone through yet. They announced the intent to do it, but they didn't go through with it yet.
Well, it's going to happen contingent on this IPO successfully working. Mm-hmm. So basically, the IPO was announced earlier today, and basically, once this IPO goes through, if they get proper funding and everything works out properly, then the transaction will go through, and Unusual Machines rather, will own Fat Shark and Rotor Riot and be a $20 million valued IPO company.
So, and another thing that people might need to know that is that Jeff Thompson, the founder and owner of Red Cat, is also a principal. What's his role for Unusual Machines?
I think he owned it, but I'm not 100%. It's been a while since we've done this story, but I believe he owns it.
He's basically selling Red Cat. He's basically selling Rotor Riot and Fat Shark to himself. And Red Cat is going to focus on the military industrial side and not the consumer side. Assuming they get the $20 million IPO, which I don't know. What are the chances that they don't?
But essentially, they're essentially building a bank from that. It seems like, this is sort of a way to like, hey, let's get all this money behind us in a company, right?
I'm not a financial expert.
Yeah.
But what the fuck? It's my live stream. They did a $60 million IPO for Red Cat, which included Fat Shark and Rotor Riot. The valuation of those companies has sort of been built into Red Cat's IPO. Yeah. Now Red Cat sells those companies and we do another $20 million IPO. Does Red Cat then lose $20 million in valuation or whatever?
No, I think they sold for like 13 or something, which was like 7+ stock. I can't remember exactly how it works out. But no, the valuation difference is, I don't know. I think in value, technically, yes, but I think they did it in different ways. So it's like money plus stock, I think. I think it's also maybe vested over time. It's been
Unusual Machines pays Red Cat for the value of these companies, and that's how Red Cat is sort of made whole. And then we do another IPO. But it seems like I don't understand finance, because they're going to do a $20 million IPO. But they're only going to pay $13 million for the companies. It seems like they're just ginning money up out of thin air.
Well, it's all about what people want to pay, right? Like, they're investors. People have to put that money in. They obviously could do due diligence to see what the valuation is and what they just sold for and what they make. But I will point out that the only companies who made any money, as far as I know, yet in Red Cat, are Fat Shark and Rotor Riot. So, like, this is the entire positive number on the books, and Teal will be that going forward because they're doing small deals with Teal for Red Cat. But as far as I know, this was the only. So if you think about it like that, you're essentially getting the same, profitable amount, but you're paying, the IPO is 3 times less. But I get where you're coming from. I definitely get
all a bunch of bullshit, isn't it, Blunty?
Also, it's just 13 million's off the cuff. I can't remember exactly what it was. But I think it's way less than 20. I think it was like 13 or 15 was the required IPO. So
I'm going to be doing an IPO of my ass.
No, that's an NFT. That's an NFT.
Oh, my mistake. Yeah, no, you're right. That's my mistake. Just do an IPO. So it's just people out there in the world who can do IPOs, and then people give them $60 million.
Are you trying to suggest that NFTs are personal IPOs without any value? Is that like...
I mean, in principle, I think that IPOs have value. I understand how an IPO sort of represents the value of the company. But then I look at these companies, and they make nothing and they do nothing, as far as I can tell. They just have like a lot of potential. And then someone just shouts IPO. It's like when Michael Scott declared bankruptcy. Someone just shouts IPO, and then everyone showers them with money. And then I'm like, where does that, how do I get in on that? I guess that's what I really want to know. Anyway, good luck. Good luck.
All right.
Next up. Speaking of companies that don't do anything and went out of business.
Yeah, for anybody who's been using Verifly drone insurance, if you haven't opened your app lately or you haven't checked your email, I assume they're doing email as well, you might not have noticed this message. Verifly is ending drone coverage on March 24th, 2023. So yeah, we're giving you a heads up that Verifly is one of the insurance providers for drones. I know a few people who use it, and you can't anymore. So
Yeah. I don't remember if it was Verifly or another drone insurance company, but I was reached out to some years ago by a company who sold insurance and they wanted to sell insurance for drones. And I was like, there's no one, first of all, no one is going to pay this amount of money, what they were asking for and second of all, the restrictions on what you can do and so forth. It's just not, forget about it. So this is pointless. My audience doesn't want this. And the other thought that I had that I didn't say was, and you're going to lose your freaking shirt because we crashed the shit out of our drone. They didn't realize that these weren't camera drones. And who knows which of those things caused Verifly to decide not to sell insurance anymore, but I'm hardly surprised.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Next up. Airspeeder, allowed to Airspeeder, which some people might be familiar with for FPV Pilot being a member of that.
Mm-hmm. There she is now.
Yeah, is going to be broadcast on Fox Sports Australia and Kayo Sports March 16th and March 17th. So if you're interested in seeing some Airspeeder on TV, you want to check out highlights from the races, there's going to be looks like about 2 40-minute blocks of that Thursday and Friday. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's really cool. I wonder if the footage will be available online.
I'm not sure. Also, if you click that video, we can also quickly watch a little bit of the highlights here from 2 people controlling these guys racing against each other. But yeah, they're doing the whole thing. They've got commentary and a track set up, and they're all trying to keep in line and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting.
Gates.
It's interesting to see. Yeah, it's interesting to see the size of these things and how they're being flown. You know, your awareness is different because you've got something so large, but you're still only seeing directly in front of you, and then you've got the space of the track and trying to keep in balance. And then also these things swing out a lot, right? Because you don't necessarily have a lot of thrust until you tilt. So you're getting side swipes a lot and stuff. It's kind of interesting. It looks like it's definitely another skill, similar to racing larger drones versus small ones.
You really would need like a servo gimbal or something so you could look around if you're going to be doing racing like this.
It feels like it would be way cooler with head tracking inside with a big camera, similar to what you would be if you're in it, kind of getting used to that world, and then you're sitting in a cockpit looking around with VR goggles or something.
They don't look like they're going very fast.
That's the first thing I noticed was
80 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
Wait, 60. What's this? This must be altitude, I guess. Yeah, they're not going very fast. The course is not very challenging either. It's just like an oval.
Also something I noticed, definitely.
What?
We've been wondering when they're going to do these races and get them publicized and when the teams are going to go forward, and we've started to see that. So yeah, just letting everybody know.
I'm equally confused. Like,
also, hopefully they don't have any mid-airs, as Eric points out.
Yeah. Well, considering that these are intended to be manned eventually. Yeah. Like, if they had a mid-air, they would be in big trouble with the regulatory authorities, and it would be when I interviewed, I have an interview I did with Lexi about this. You can find it on my channel. And you're like, it's just a remote control aircraft. If you crash it, big deal. She was like, no. Like everyone is treating them as if they're manned because they need to demonstrate a record of safety. That's cool. We got one more. Some good news in the world of drone laws. Mississippi passes new law to quash undue restrictions on drones.
Yeah, I believe this is what's called a preemption law. Basically, we've seen in a lot of different states that don't have a law like this, that local municipalities or even the state tries to make rules about drones. And as we know, drone airspace all airspace in the U.S. is directly under the control of the FAA. FAA has federal preemption. A lot of states don't respect that, and you end up having to go to court over these things, and it becomes a struggle because you're fighting with states and local and all that kind of stuff. So Mississippi has added a rule that, as far as I know, is written correctly and all good from my reviews of it and everything. And it basically says that, like, hey, we understand the FAA is in charge of this stuff. Please don't make rules that are like this. This is a state rule to remind you of that sort of thing. So
nice. Well, this is interesting because we've seen scenarios where local, state, city, county, whatever, local government has tried to regulate the airspace in ways that they're not supposed to be able to under federal law, but no one has challenged it. No one has said no. And by the way, the FAA should really be doing this, but they're not.
I'll just say plenty of people have said no. It just takes court cases and years.
Exactly. You could say no.
Yeah.
Then you have to sue them and say this is not allowed. And it should be a slam dunk case because only the federal government is allowed to regulate the airspace, period. And I'm disappointed that the FAA is not more aggressive about this. Instead, they're fining individual pilots for bullshit little, oh, you didn't have a 107, here's $1,500 fine or some other bullshit, pardon my swearing. When it takes individuals raising money to go fight municipalities and on the FAA's behalf and say, you can't do this. But it's very nice to see a state going, hey, don't knock this shit out. It's very good. Mississippi did not see that coming.
Yeah, we've seen preemption laws in other states, but yeah, Mississippi is now on that list. So good to see. We always like to see if they're going to pass laws about drones, they should be good ones that avoid states making their own rules and all those kind of things. So it's very easy to see the opposite thing come through, and then a bunch of fighting ensue. So yeah.
Yeah. We got one more super chat here from Mike Bundy. Thank you for a $10 super chat. Mike wants an update on FRIAs. Well, for a $10 super chat, Blunty, we can take just a couple minutes. Oh my God, it's 20 after 7. This is going to be the longest news ever.
You said it was light.
Well, we added some shit after I said it was light.
That's true. So, yeah, I mean,
a quick update on FRIAs.
Yeah, it's essentially... for people who don't know, I'm a member of the FPV Freedom Coalition. We fight along with often the Flight Test Community Association to get information and work to make things better for hobbyists, FPV and all other drone hobbyists included, if we can. That being said, we had the last piece of news about FRIAs in general is a call we had with the FAA. There's a video on the Flight Test Community Association page, if you'd like to watch that video, that details exactly what the FAA, essentially, as much as we could tell you about exactly what the FAA said in that call and their attitude. The too long didn't watch on that is essentially that there's no backyard FRIAs that are going to be approved. No personal FRIAs will be approved. Only places with multiple people flying all the time and constantly will be approved. They only expect for 4,000 FRIAs in the entire United States to be approved ever. That's their expectation. For perspective, there's 2,500 AMA fields already. So it seems extremely unlikely that we're going to get backyard FRIAs or any kind of single FRIA situation like we expected to do, and the FAA is not interested in doing that. Also, currently, the FAA has not processed, as far as we know, a single FRIA application, even started the processing. All the applications we submitted and Flight Test has submitted currently are pending with no changes and no change in status to under review or anything like that. So that's sort of where we're at on FRIAs. Well, I will say also, in the next few days, we should be publishing, as the FPVFC, our comments for the FAA Reauthorization Act. That's where we're doing the 250 grams to 1 kilogram issue. But our other major issue that we're submitting in the FAA Reauthorization Act is to have them take a look at FRIAs and try to change their intention to be what they actually should be instead of what they are currently. So we're basically going through in the Reauthorization Act comments, we're reviewing the issues with FRIAs, what our concern is, and what we'd like to see FRIAs become. I can also say for sure that the AMA has been pushing this FRIA issue as well. I'm not sure about the other stuff, but the AMA I know is also doing this stuff. Flight Test obviously is working with us on this. So our goal definitely is also, our other major goal, other 1 kilogram, is to try to fix the FRIA situation and make it what it should have been instead of what it became. So
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for the update and thanks for the work you're doing on that. I'm gonna show us out with a couple of dank memes from Black Jungle. And then he updated this
Fair
one as
enough.
well, which I'm not sure if this is better or not, but all right.
They're both
That's going to do it,
valid.
folks.
Both are valid.
Both valid. There was one other I sent you, Blunty. Where's the one I sent? Hold on. I'll share this one more. This is, I think this is also probably Black Jungle, though I'm not 100% sure. This is, I feel this in my soul, Blunty. I know you do too.
Yeah.
Look how bored
Definitely.
that cat looks. All right,
They're
folks.
They're all the same.
All right, folks. That's going to wrap it up for tonight. We'll see you next week and throughout the week. Happy flying, everybody.
Yeah. Later, guys.